The morning sun barely broke through the Colorado mist as I stood on the porch of my hand-built cedar cabin. The aroma of fresh coffee mingling with pine needles and the faint tang of sawdust from my final trim work. My name's Jack Thornton, a 52-year-old retired electrician with 30 years of wiring houses under my belt. I'd poured my heart into this 600-square-foot retreat, a sanctuary on my late uncle's 40-acre plot in the foothills, far from the manicured lawns of Crestwood Estates. But there, on my kitchen counter, sat a certified letter from the HOA, demanding $30,000 for an unauthorized structure built 847 feet outside their jurisdiction. They thought they could bully me into submission. They didn't know who they were dealing with. 2 years ago, I thought retirement was sorted. A modest nest egg, a workshop to tinker in, and my wife, Clara, waving from the kitchen window. Then cancer stole her away, leaving me rattling around our beige-walled house in Crestwood like a ghost. The HOA's suffocating Relesix-foot fences, approved flower species, mailboxes painted forest green, felt like a cage closing in. So when I remembered Uncle Tom's wilderness plot, 300 yards past the last HOA street sign, I knew it was my escape. Standing there that first day, breathing air sharp with pine and damp earth, I decided to build a cabin. Nothing fancy, just a place to sip coffee without someone measuring my grass. I'd learned one thing in my career: always pull permits. I spent $300 at the county office for structural, electrical, and septic approvals, nailing those yellow placards to a pine tree like a badge of honor. Enter Margaret Kessler, Crestwood's HOA president, a 58-year-old corporate type who wielded her title like a scepter. In her designer suits, she ruled the 5-person board with a smile that could curdle milk, her voice dripping with what I call executive venom, polite words laced with threats. She carried a measuring tape in her purse, eyeballing lawn ornaments with the precision of a drill sergeant. To her, I was just a blue-collar retiree who didn't know his place. When she pulled up to my cabin in her gleaming BMW, her heels sinking into the forest floor, she called out, "Mr. Thornton, I trust you've cleared this project with the proper authorities?" I pointed to my permits. "County says it's legal, ma'am." Her smile twitched, but she pressed on. "County permits are one thing. HOA approval is another." I should have seen the red flag, but I was too busy leveling a window frame. 2 weeks later, the $30,000 fine arrived, claiming my cabin violated covenants on land that predated her HOA by 15 years. Sitting on my half-finished porch, coffee gone cold, I read their smug line: "Ignorance of our covenants is no excuse. Bullies bank on you giving up." They picked the wrong guy. I called Margaret, expecting a neighborly resolution. "There's a misunderstanding," I said. "My land's outside your boundaries." The silence stretched, followed by her sugary reply: "Our jurisdiction covers all member properties, Mr. Thornton. The fine stands." Click. I stared at my phone, wondering if I'd stumbled into a dictatorship where property lines were optional. Margaret's next move was straight out of a war manual. She filed a complaint with county code enforcement, twisting my legal permits into claims of an illegal rental property. Neighbors started avoiding me at the grocery store, whispering about my grief-driven antics. Then came her surveillance squad, suburban busybodies snapping photos of my lumber deliveries like I was smuggling contraband. The breaking point was Margaret at my door, clipboard in hand, offering to reduce the fine to $5,000 if I demolished my cabin. Her smile said she thought I was too dumb to fight back. "Mrs. Kessler," I said, my voice tight, "I think I'll do some research." Her expression flickered like a bad bulb. At the Jefferson County Courthouse, I dug through records with the focus of a man possessed. Bureaucrats are slow, but their paperwork is ironclad. I found Crestwood's incorporation documents, proving their jurisdiction ended at Pine Hollow Road. My uncle's land, deeded 15 years before the HOA existed, was grandfathered until. Then I hit gold in their covenant files. Section 12, subsection 4 confirmed their authority, stopped at the platted boundaries. My cabin was 847 feet beyond their reach. I hired surveyor Hank Larson, a grizzled 62-year-old who knew property law better than most lawyers. "HOAs think they own the horizon," he chuckled, setting up his transit scope. 3 hours later, GPS confirmed my cabin was outside their domain. I sent certified survey copies to every board member, demanding they retract the fine. Margaret's reply? Surveyor error. Pay or face a lien. A lien on my primary home, the one Clara and I built over 30 years, was a gut punch. Then came new violations. My mailbox was 2.3 inches too close to the sidewalk, $500. My fence stain too faded, $750. My truck, a commercial vehicle, $1,200. I was drowning in their bureaucratic quicksand. But 30 years in a union taught me how to play their game. Back at the courthouse, I uncovered Crestwood's financials. $180,000 in annual dues, with $45,000 spent on legal fees. Blackwell and Sons, Margaret's lawyers, pocketed $67,000 in 18 months for covenant enforcement. For a 120-home community, that was absurd. Knocking on neighbors' doors, I asked, "Ever get legal threats from the HOA?" The stories poured out. Ellen Ramsey fined $800 for planting tulips instead of marigolds. Dan Carter hit with $1,500 for a disruptive satellite dish. Lisa Monroe threatened for her home-based bakery. Each case involved Blackwell's pricey letters, and everyone paid to avoid a fight. Margaret was running a racket, with her lawyers as muscle. I filed a complaint with the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies for a financial audit and sent letters to every homeowner about the legal fees. Margaret hit back with defamation threats, but her tone felt frantic. Her next move was an emergency HOA meeting to paint me as a rogue harassing the board. She proposed a $2,500 per household assessment to fund her legal defense. I prepared like a trial lawyer, with Hank's survey maps and foam boards of financial records. The community center buzzed with tension that drizzly Thursday. Margaret opened, accusing me of spreading lies out of grief-fueled obsession. I stood, holding a map. "Mrs. Kessler, where does your authority end?" Her smug reply about complex boundaries faltered as I showed the crowd Pine Hollow Road's clear limit. Hank unrolled a county survey, confirming my cabin's exemption. The room erupted as neighbors like Ellen demanded answers about their own fines. Then Esther Brooks, a 78-year-old widow, shuffled forward with a box of her late husband's records. As HOA treasurer for 12 years, Henry had documented $47,000 in missing funds, fake contractor payments, inflated legal fees, and checks to a Pine Ridge Property Management at Margaret's address. Henry was sharp until the day he died. Esther snapped as Margaret stammered about confusion. Hank pointed out the systematic fraud in the records. The floodgates opened. Neighbors shared stories of fake violations, all tied to Margaret's revenue scheme. When I revealed the unbuilt $23,000 playground fund, Margaret's face went pale. The crowd's anger was electric. 23 homeowners met at Esther's, fueled by coffee and rage. We recruited Carl Bennett, a retired HOA lawyer who loathed corrupt boards. "This is felony fraud," he said, outlining a plan. "Complaints to the Secretary of State, DA, and regulatory agencies, plus a civil suit." Margaret escalated, caught on my security camera smashing my generator with a crowbar. The footage went to the sheriff, triggering vandalism charges. Then she filed a false CPS report, claiming I endangered kids. The caseworker, Jane Ellis, saw through it in 4 hours after reviewing our evidence. Media caught wind, and Channel 7 called for an interview. Margaret's press conference was her final misstep. Facing cameras and 80 homeowners, she spun tales of my instability. But Ellen asked about the playground fund, and Esther dropped Henry's folder, exposing Margaret's theft. When Lisa mentioned the crowbar video, Margaret unraveled, screaming about conspiracies as Deputy Alvarez cuffed her for grand theft and fraud. The footage went viral, sparking a federal probe that recovered $2.3 million across 5 HOAs, with Crestwood getting $247,000. Margaret got 4 years in prison. 6 months later, the new board voided all fake fines, built the Henry Brooks Memorial Playground, and passed the Crestwood Transparency Covenant. My cabin became a symbol of defiance, and Hank and I launched Boundary Guardians LLC to fight HOA corruption. Esther, at 79, became a whistleblower icon. Colorado's Crestwood Reform Act inspired nationwide laws. Sitting on my porch, coffee in hand, I watched kids play in Henry's Park, knowing Clara would have loved this victory. Bullies thrive on fear, but when neighbors unite, no corrupt empire can stand.